Hello everyone, my name is Amma and I am going to be talking to you briefly about living in the pandemic. I chose to speak about the US and New Zealand and its differences in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic that we are currently in. So let's get to it. So let's look at the leadership of both of these countries. For New Zealand, we have Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, and she is the youngest woman in the world to ever lead a government, and she came into power in 2017 at the age of 37. On the right, we have the current President of the United States. Do not quite remember his name. I think it's Donald. And he became president in 2017 at the age of 70. All right. Now, if you are not familiar with New Zealand, it is an island country in Oceania. They are well known for Hobbit Town, which is where they shot all of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, if you are interested in that. They are also very known for the kiwi fruit as well as manuka honey. The other pictures, like the Statue of Liberty and this food picture, are just from good old United States, land of the brave and home of the free, or so I have heard. All right. Now, let's talk about the global pandemic and how the two countries have dealt with it so far. So here are some current statistics for you. In New Zealand, as of June 26th of this year, there are 1,520 confirmed cases, and there are 1,520 confirmed and probable cases in the whole country, and the change in the last 24 hours is just one new case. So the total number of deaths since the entire pandemic started is 22. They have lost 22 people since the COVID-19 pandemic came into their country. Now, their current unemployment rate has held stable at around 4% since 2018, which means that COVID-19 did not affect their unemployment rate. Now, let's look at the United States. So, as of June the 26th of this year, there are 2,494,579 confirmed cases, and this number makes up 25.8% of the entire world's confirmed cases, as in 25% of the world's COVID cases are found in the United States today. The number of deaths is 126,592 and counting. Now, the current unemployment rate is 14.7%. So as of May 14th, a whopping 36.5 million Americans had filed for unemployment. And it's said that this is the worst figure on record since 1948. Okay. So here we have some very shocking statistics. We will get into why a little bit later, why their unemployment rate is the way they are, why there are so many confirmed cases in one country, whereas there are little confirmed cases in the other. So these pictures represent some things that each government did for its citizens as a result of the coronavirus. So let's start with New Zealand. New Zealand set aside about $490 million in total for anything to do with healthcare. So they divided that approximately in half to for like about $235 million to be spent immediately on like healthcare and like increased testing, contact tracing, increasing hospital capacity to see more sick people, etc. And then the other half of the money was set aside for future health needs. And so not only have they put aside money to spend immediately on healthcare and anything to do with the virus, but they've set aside money for the future because you never know what's gonna happen. They might need extra flu vaccines, extra masks, so on and so forth. They also set aside about $5.1 billion in wage subsidies. What that means is that since the entire country was on lockdown and it was hard for people to work, that this much money, $5.1 billion, was set aside as subsidized income for all its citizens. Then another $2.8 billion was set aside in income support packages for seniors and low-income families, etc. Now we come to the United States. Let us see what the United States and its government did to help its citizens. So, the President of the United States held numerous press conferences. Number one, to basically tell us that we need to stop testing for COVID, because as much as we're testing for COVID, that's why our numbers are increasing. So it wasn't the fact that there are numbers increasing of COVID cases, but the fact that it would reflect negatively on his leadership. He also went on to suggest that we ingest bleach, since bleach cleans things. So, yeah, there's that. Also, there was a coronavirus stimulus package, and what that did was that it afforded, apparently, Americans a couple $1,000s to live since the lockdown happened. So from March all the way till now, I personally received $1,200. I'm not very sure what $1,200 was supposed to do for rent, school, food, electricity, and all that for the past 3 months. So, there's that. With regards to the stimulus package, a lot of people have not even received the first one, even though there is a promise for a second one. A lot of people have not received the first one. And if you remember the statistics from a couple of slides ago, just remember how large the unemployment, how many millions of people filed for unemployment. All right, moving on. So, why such polar statistics? So, this is what happened in New Zealand. New Zealand closed its borders on March 15th when there was only 100 confirmed cases and no deaths, as in nobody had died from COVID-19 in New Zealand yet, and the country's prime minister decided to shut down the country, closed its borders, and enacted a very strict quarantine, social distancing, and lockdown policy, which means that nobody was allowed to leave their homes. Nobody was allowed to interact except for the people that you had in your home. Just a very few places were open, such as gas stations, hospitals, and very essential places. The citizens of the country were not combative. They were very cooperative, and they cooperated with the lockdown, quarantine, and social distancing instructions. The New Zealand government was also very financially helpful to its citizens, as I mentioned earlier. Now we have the United States. So it closed its borders officially on March 23rd, and by then they had more than 40,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and up to 473 deaths before they closed the borders. And as you have seen on the news and everything, the citizens, being individualists, only care about themselves, have remained combative, protested lockdowns and the wearing of masks because, common sense, and didn't take any social distancing seriously, and were concerned about the loss of frivolous things. Now, the unemployment rates hit an all-time high, and not much was done to remedy except for the $1,200 that people got. Thank you for listening to my little presentation.